Gentlemen, have you ever wanted to gun down the homeless population of Los Angeles, firebomb the entire population of Romania, and then gaslight thousands of men to die in the jungles of Vietnam? If so, then the courts and your doctor probably think you're criminally insane and should be locked up. I prefer the term American Patriot. Now that I've escaped, I will be showing you how I achieved all of this and more in today's Total War Warhammer 3 video. Now, you might be asking yourself, Mr. Bongos, who in the game can do all that? Good question. Lots of factions could probably achieve all this, but the best candidate is none other than Karl Franz. Leader of the Empire, Karl Franz is on a journey to unite his fractured nation under one banner. However, internal strife and illegal immigrants aren't the only foes facing Karl Franz. On turn 100, the Wood Elf endgame crisis will spawn, causing a horde of elves to tumble out of the jungles of Vietnam with only one goal: crush my testicles with a hydraulic press. Will I succeed in uniting the Empire and firebombing Vietnam back to the Stone Age, or will the Wood Elves fill me with arrows and force me to work in a Hollister sweatshop? Only one way to know. Welcome to the realm of the Empire. Based on the real-life Holy Roman Empire, the Empire takes up most of Central Europe and is broken up into various independent provinces, which are ruled by elector counts. Our primary goal is to unite these provinces using either diplomacy or conquest. But first, we have a rebellion to crush. Despite losing the popular vote, Karl Franz was just elected emperor, which caused a few disgruntled citizens to rise up against him in open protest. Don't worry, I'm very good at negotiating with protesters. Now, I know my methods may seem a little excessive, but let me ask you, are they still protesting? After the battle, I was approached by a man who claimed to be some sort of wizard, but upon closer inspection, I realized he was just your average schizophrenic man. Theorizing I might be able to weaponize this, I added the wizard to Franz's army and auto-resolved the remaining 2 battles, crushing the rebellion and succeeding in conquering my first province. I then began recruiting some more cavalry and artillery to beef up Franz's army while I planned my next move. This is Khazrak, and thanks to the copious amounts of ketamine pumping through his system, he has spent the last several turns leading a tribe of homeless men on a rampage across the imperial province of Middenheim. However, it now seems their rampage is taking them dangerously close to the gates of Altdorf. I moved Karl Franz up to defend Altdorf and deal with this homelessness crisis once and— wait, stop. No, Khazrak, stop. Khazrak, don't. And he fucking did it. Great, that's great. Well, I guess it can't get any worse. Khazrak may have razed the town of Alhar, but at least I now knew where he was. I marched Karl Franz over to deal with Khazrak once and for all, and walked straight into a Beastman ambush. Why? Why did I do this? I have hundreds of hours across all 3 Warhammer games. I should know how the Beastmen work by now. Why? I now found myself surrounded on all sides by the Beastmen, my artillery completely overrun and routed, and my army organization non-existent. While things did look bad, I still had one advantage. Beastmen units are shit. Between my schizophrenic wizard's magic, my riflemen gunning down the enemy minotaurs, and Karl Franz doing a very good job beating the living shit out of Khazrak, I was able to scrape out a very hard-fought victory. I immediately chased down Khazrak's army and killed it, before turning my attention to the squatters within my borders. Remember, gentlemen, squatters very quickly lose their rights if you shoot them in the head. I moved on to the town of Karelberg, killed the orcs occupying it, and then resurrected the faction of Middenland. Mr. Bongos? Why did you return that settlement to a destroyed faction, instead of capturing it yourself? Excellent question there, Reds. Now, pay attention, because there are several reasons for this. First, the Elector Count of Middenland is Boris Todbringer, who's technically an Empire legendary lord, so I'd very much like to confederate him. Second, returning a city to an Elector Count greatly increases fealty, which is needed in order to confederate with them. Third, returning a ruin to an Elector Count instantly spawns the city back at level 1 without any gold investment. Over the next few turns, I managed to retake the city of Middenheim from Kazrag, returning it to Boris, and destroying the homelessness crisis once and for all. I then resettled the rest of Middenland, and a few turns later, marched on the Orc capital, killed the Orcs, and gave that city to Middenland as well. Now that Middenland was secure, it was time I worked on expanding my borders. I wanted to take the city of Marienburg, but it looks like someone has already beaten me to the punch. Well, I suppose I should go meet my new neighbor. Oh, he's old. That should be fine. Hello.
Hi there, young people. Nice day today.
Kill, stab, kill, kill, stab, stab, kill, kill, stab, kill.
For an old man, Heinrich was actually looking pretty strong. He had a lot of armies, and well, I didn't. Luckily, all of his armies are over here, and the only way for him to get to me is through the fort in this narrow pass, which I immediately moved to capture. With the fort protecting my flank, I was free to capture the city of Marienburg. Capturing the city allowed me to appoint my first elector count, as well as recruit state troop outriders with grenade launchers. These units are very good. With Marienburg secured, I began my offensive in the Kemmler's territory. The geriatric old man was currently squatting in the French town of Gissereau, which I immediately moved to capture. I auto-resolved the battle and killed Kemmler's main army. In response, the old fella came to me begging for peace and even offered up a social security check. Unfortunately, money can't buy the happiness I feel when crushing osteoporotic bones with my bare hands. Looking to end this war quickly, as being in France was making me violently ill, I moved Karl Franz to siege the city of Blackstone Post, accurately predicting that Kemmler would march out to attack me with his remaining forces. 3 armies of undead poured onto the map, looking to overwhelm me with sheer numbers. I set up my army in a defensive formation on top of a nearby hill, giving myself the uphill advantage. What's that? You don't believe that advantage really matters? Well, let's see what our former commander-in-chief thinks.
Never fight uphill, me boys!
Well said, Donald. Well said. The cornerstone of my victory relied on this unit right here, the Outriders with grenade launchers. As the enemy engaged our front line, they would be absolutely showered with grenades. Between my Outriders obliterating anything that got in range, and Karl Franz using his big bird to crush rotting corpses underfoot, this battle was a major victory. With all of Kemmler's armies destroyed, mopping up the remainder of Kemmler's cities was easy. I sold the cities I'd captured to the French, and brought this holy war against the elderly to a close. Hearing tale of my heroic beatdown of an old man, Boris Todbringer decided to join my confederation, likely with the hope that he too could abuse the less fortunate. This is Festus, who can best be described as a Magic the Gathering player that has weaponized the stench of his unwashed body. Currently squatting in the middle of Middenland, I sent Boris up to deal with him. Auto-resolve said that I would lose this battle, and based on the amount of Chaos Warriors Festus had, not to mention the fucking giant, I kind of agreed. That is, I would have agreed if I hadn't brought along our good friend, the Grenadiers. See, Festus has a lot of really strong melee units, but a critical lack of mobility, and with no way to catch the Grenadiers, there was no way to stop them. While my crossbowmen focused on bringing down the enemy giant, my Grenadiers saw to obliterating the enemy front line. After the battle, I learned something rather interesting. Apparently, the most effective way to attract a woman is to brutally murder an obese man with tuberculosis. Because shortly after destroying Festus's army, the Empire legendary lord Elsbeth von Draken joined the Empire, bringing with her the provinces of Wissenland and Solent. A few turns later, we had seized Festus's capital and ended his miserable life once and for all. Now, I bet you're wondering, where's Karl Franz been all this time? He's been up in the north, teaching the Norwegians what a severe head injury feels like. While he's doing that, let's take a look at our empire so far. All coming along very nicely. Yeah, that should probably be addressed. With the Vikings properly educated, I gathered my forces and marched on the Romanians. 4 of my armies meeting 4 of theirs. Unfortunately, I don't have my Grenadiers this time around. However, I have something much better. Rocket batteries. Now, I'd like to say I won this battle through my superior tactics, but to be honest, microing 4 armies is a bit much for me. So this battle quickly devolved into several large blobs of units skirmishing, while my mages and artillery fired indiscriminately into the crowd. This tactic proved quite effective, because I decisively won the battle and was able to chase down each of the surviving armies. I'm not quite sure why Vlad had every army at his disposal down here, but with the aftermath of that battle, there was very little standing in my way as I started taking city after city. Meanwhile, I decided it was time to convince Volkmar the Grim to join the Empire. It seems he's a little hesitant. That's better. After confederating Volkmar, it wasn't long before I finished exterminating the Romanian people. And just in time too, as I just received a 10-turn warning for the endgame crisis. Thankfully, my war with Vlad had finally allowed me to complete the Empire. Wait, hold on. What the fuck? It looks like my good friend and longtime ally, Katerine of Russia, decided she really wants to fuck me, as she currently owns Ostermark, the last city I need. Well, I own a Kislev city. Surely she's open to trade. I offered her a trade, city for city. She said no. I threw some gold into the mix. Still no. Again I tried, with even more gold. Still no. I performed some high-octane research. That was no help. I put her in the penis explosion chamber. She doesn't have a penis. Finally, after throwing 25,000 gold into the mix, she agreed. Yippee! Now, the Empire was complete, and with just a few turns to go, we made some last-minute preparations for the oncoming Vietnamese onslaught. The crisis officially began, and while that is a lot of armies, that's not as many as I expected, considering I set the difficulty to max. Curious. Luckily, they were all on the other side of this mountain range, and since the only way into my borders were through these fort-protected passes, I was feeling pretty confident in my defenses. Oh yeah, I forgot their armies could teleport. The full might of Vietnam had just tunneled into my lands and began attacking my cities. Scrambling to mount a counterattack, I marched Volkmar out to take on Durthu's army. No auto-resolve, I'm not gonna lose any units in this battle. Thanks to my artillery, I was able to soften up the enemy from a range and, I auto-resolved the battle and succeeded in killing off Durthu's army, marking our first victory over Vietnam. Rallying behind this victory, Karl Franz marched out personally to meet the leader of the Wood Elves, Orion, in the field. I really despise fighting the Wood Elves, so I devised the perfect strategy for dealing with them. Shower them with napalm from beyond my field of view. However, despite my artillery and cavalry advantage, we still barely managed to scrape out a victory. Maybe the ultimate counter to the Wood Elves is really just auto-resolve. One by one, I managed to push the Vietnamese back, while Karl Franz began his offensive into Athel Loren. I marched Franz up to the Oak of Ages and conquered the stupid tree. I then immediately turned and took the crag halls of Findal. However, Karl Franz was now alone in enemy territory, and the final two enemy cities were too well defended for Franz to take alone. He needed help. He needed to summon the Elector Counts.
Summon the Elector Counts!
We're gonna cry!
With the full might of the Empire at my back, we captured the city of Val's Anvil before turning to march on Durthu's capital. My armies deployed onto the map and the epic final battle began. The Elves fought valiantly, but between my artillery fire, machine gun emplacements, and wizard's magic, there really wasn't much they could do to stop me. With the battle's conclusion, we had succeeded in killing the crisis in just 13 turns, and were awarded with a victory screen. Now, while this is cause for celebration, I gotta say, this felt a little easy. A little too easy.
This is the police.
Fuck, it's a setup.
Come out with your hands above your head. We have the place surrounded.
Shit. It looks like I'm going back to the mental hospital. However, I think we all know that won't hold me for long, and I swear, when I break out again, the first thing I'm gonna do is go to the house of each and every one of you that watches my content and doesn't subscribe, and choke the life out of you with my bare hands. Before that though, I'd like to give a huge shout out and thank you to all my patrons for all the support. Seriously, you guys are awesome, and I'll see you all in the next video.